Hey guys, welcome back to Altaz-Review, where we talk about upcoming games and big names. After a big revival in a recent game, Prince of Persia is going stronger than ever. After Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown and its successful side-scrolling roguelike formula, we have trailers for the Rogue Prince of Persia, another addition to the IP which expands on the world. And it takes us back to the roots of Prince of Persia while embracing the game mechanics of The Lost Crown. So let's take a look at what kind of game this is and how it compares to the overall series. So let's get right into it. After more than 10 years, Prince of Persia made a big comeback with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. Clearly a lot of thought was put into what kind of gameplay the big revival will have. So seeing a game that's a bit more arcadey, side-scrolling, and with a lot of complex platforming, Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown became a nostalgic reboot that was very different and familiar at the same time. After The Lost Crown, we weren't sure what the future of Prince of Persia games would look like, since we've seen 2D, 3D, and 2.5D versions before, and all of them have had their own appeal. So just because The Lost Crown did well, doesn't mean the next game won't still be a third-person 3D game. But it looks like roguelike platforming suits the Prince of Persia gameplay style well. The very idea of sand monsters and rewinding time to surpass obstacles goes well with the roguelike genre itself. Dying and starting back at some checkpoint may as well be the sands of time itself. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. So far, the new Prince of Persia games have given absolutely no confirmation on whether we'll be dealing with time powers or even if we'll be playing as the original protagonist in the next game. Maybe these old themes don't fit the new mechanics or lore just yet, or maybe the devs are testing out this new version of Prince of Persia gameplay before they make a big reveal of the original Prince and the sands of time for the first time in the soft reboot. The Rogue Prince of Persia is almost a complete carryover of the Lost Crown mechanics, with a quick dash, staggering attacks, and the bow side weapon. The style and setting are also pretty similar to the older Prince of Persia games like the Sands of Time on Game Boy, which had simplistic combat but a lot of obstacle-type platforming. The Game Boy version also had Farah, who could use a bow, but the new Prince of Persia games put all the mechanics together while making the combat as fast-paced as Prince of Persia: The Two Thrones. Given that some of the devs for this game also worked on Dead Cells, the combat and balanced roguelike gameplay makes a lot more sense. Dead Cells was difficult but balanced, so it probably wasn't too hard to make the combat and platforming a bit more accessible. Combat looks fairly basic, but that works best in a randomly generated roguelike. Staggering enemies while working past their health shields and dealing with multiple enemies requires you to be a bit smarter and more reactive to battles depending on the obstacles you just passed or the environment you're currently fighting in. If enemies collide into a wall or into other enemies, they get staggered, and you can just keep smashing them into the same wall or person till they're dead. Special attacks are good against health shields, while diving attacks and backflipping helps you manage multiple enemies, or even traps and obstacles. And of course, the bow is a versatile tool that can make up for any flaws in skill, so you can pass certain puzzles or at least do a bit of damage to enemies and safely finish them off. Weapon variety and random drops are pretty similar to Dead Cells, while the types of items in chests and with merchants are a bit more like the Lost Crown. But the Lost Crown doesn't really have weapon variety, just build variety. So being able to change up your fighting style based on your weapon is a fun little addition. But although combat is looking great in the Rogue Prince of Persia, it doesn't look like it's the most creative part of the game this time. The Lost Crown focuses more on high quality combat and clever boss fights with a lot of spectacle. But the Rogue Prince of Persia lives up to its name as a roguelike and creates a feeling of parkour similar to the Assassin's Creed games or the 3D Prince of Persia games. Wall running and dragging across a wall with your dagger gives a much more three-dimensional feel in the 2D environment. The art style is also a big change, but a welcome one. The Lost Crown had a pretty different style as well, using cel-shaded cartoon-style graphics, while the Rogue Prince of Persia has a much more unique animation art style. There's a lot of new looks to these Prince of Persia games, but the style goes so well with the games and with the respective plots as well. And considering the common development of the Rogue Prince of Persia and Dead Cells, it's easy to see how they were able to use different tactics to make the 2D animations feel 3D. And then there's the music. Just from the gameplay trailer, the Persian string instruments for the EDM remix is a soothing loop that fits the parkour moments and the combat moments. At some points, it reminds me of the Witcher 3 soundtrack, specifically the Gwent OST. And during combat, the EDM edition makes the game feel like Sifu as you jump around and counterattack several enemies at once, while they're just bumping into each other and getting staggered. Everything in this game is direct and easy to comprehend, but the mechanics allow the level design and enemy types to make things harder or easier depending on which enemies show up and whether they fight in tight spaces or maybe act as obstacles as you parkour past a complicated route. The Rogue Prince of Persia doesn't look to be the new formula for Prince of Persia, but the roguelike mechanics and stylish gameplay does seem to be influencing the future of Prince of Persia games. And it's a good look for the future of this amazing returning IP. I know it's not out just yet, but after the success of The Lost Crown, I'm looking forward to seeing the Rogue Prince of Persia get a ton of great reviews and new fans, whether we're talking about new fans or old ones. Well, that's just my preemptive look at the Rogue Prince of Persia. Ubisoft seems to be using its best IPs the way they deserve, and it's doing it smart, since there's still so much room for additions and upgrades to this new version of Prince of Persia. But if Prince of Persia is gonna remain a side-scrolling roguelike for a while, it might not be such a bad idea at this rate. But let me know what you guys think about this new direction for Prince of Persia and what other games you want to hear about. Until then, I hope I see you in the next video.